Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Yes, we are talking about the architecture of unconditional love. Have you noticed the theme of love this morning? Our song and our reading, all of it is pointing to what we're discussing today. So I want to begin with a story this morning. It's a true story from the book, The Architecture of All Abundance, and it was written a number of years ago by Leandra Carroll, and she is the mother, as we discussed last week, of the pop star Jewel. So it really fits well with what we're talking about. So the story goes that this little girl watched the women in church with the new baby. They were right next to her, and the baby snuggled in a soft white blanket, dressed up in a beautiful long white gown that was all lace and ribbons. The lady cradled her little one in her arms, beaming down with a beautiful smile and cooing quietly. Her glossy black hair fell across the snowy blanket, touching the baby's cheek lightly. After a while, the baby began to fuss and squirm, as babies are known to do. Shh, the mother crooned, rocking the baby carefully. Her eyes were so gentle. Shh, her voice was soft and soothing, rocking and rocking. Shh, shh. As the baby quieted, the little girl by their side felt a deep longing. I want that, she said to herself. I want someone to hold me just like that. So she sat still for a very long time, pretending that she was that baby. It felt so safe and warm there, right next to that really pretty lady who was holding that baby. So that sense of being completely enveloped in the protection and love in a safe and secure blanket, that feeling of being completely filled with an indescribably delicious, unconditional love is something I think we all crave. We all want to feel that, each and every one of us, whether we are a little girl or a grown woman, or whether we are a little boy or a grown man. Some of us received it as babies and as children, as adults from our earthly mothers and our fathers, and others, like the author, Leandra Carroll, who was the little girl sitting next to the pretty lady in the story, did not. Most people often feel unconditional love towards a newborn child. It's so easy to do, isn't it? Perhaps it's the nearness to the realm from which that child so recently came. Remember the story I've shared before, the little boy who wanted to have some alone time with his newborn sister, and he wanted to ask her to remind him what God was like because he was 4 years old and he was starting to forget. We all crave that love. So according to Leandra, we are taught to value and strive for unconditional love, but we are taught that it is an unattainable ideal. But the good news is that it is attainable. But first, before we get any further, what exactly is unconditional love? How do we give or receive it? What can unconditional love do for us? Let's spend a little time talking about this unconditional love, which Leandra calls big love, divine love, greater love, spiritual love, Christ-like love, infinite love. There are so many terms for love, but when we dwell in ego, security, and fear-based existence, sometimes it's hard to have a good understanding of such unconditional love. Unconditional love is about the expansion of the very universe, individual and cosmic. Infinite love moves us beyond the boundary of the purely physical and adds divine potential to it. In The Science of Mind, Holmes writes, "Love is the central flame of the universe, nay, the very fire itself. It is written that God is love and that we are his expressed likeness, the image of the eternal being. Love is the self-givingness through creation, the impartation of the divine through the human. Only love knows love, and love knows only love. God is love, and love is God." So what does that look like in our individual lives? How do we receive this big love, this unconditional love that we so long for? Especially if we may have missed out on that feeling from our childhood. Or perhaps we may have forgotten what it feels like. And sometimes when we get beyond our childhood, we forget some of those things. In the book that we're reading in our book study, Life is What You Make It, Ernest Holmes talks about the necessity for love. He tells us that there is only one love in the universe, and we receive it by associating ourselves with it. So that's the key right there when we start to forget, is to realize that we are one with that very source of love. Since there is only one mind in the entire universe, we receive it by associating ourselves with it. He tells us that when we enter into this oneness with the all love, we find less and less room for hatred, bitterness, criticism, and envy. Because remember, we can only think one thought at a time, right? So which thought are we focusing on? We will open our inner lives to the perfect, free, unhindered inflow of divine love. This causes us to raise our life to a higher level, a level where there is a consuming desire to do good to others, and where lower desires just gradually fade out. They no longer have an impact or consume our attention or our energies. We freely forgive our enemies because we realize that God never hates, nor does God hold feelings of bitterness toward any person. That's not possible. It's impossible to express the love of God and something else. I'm reminded of the poem that was written by Mother Teresa entitled Do It Anyway. And the first line reads, "People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway." Love them anyway. How about if we do that right now, just for a few moments? Close your eyes, if you choose, and think of someone who may be just a little hard to love. It can be anybody. And allow yourself to love them anyway. Surround them with the light and with the love of Spirit. Okay, thank you. Come back now and take a deep breath. And know that each and every one of you, right here and right now, you are loved. You are loved. There's a beautiful passage in the Architecture of All Abundance from the chapter which is called The Architecture of Love. And Leandra writes, she wrote this, it's just beautiful. She writes, love is. It has its own isness. Love is God. It is and moves through all things. It surrounds us. To be in love is to be in the body of the Creator. Love is the one in whom we live and move and have our being. It connects, binds, integrates, nourishes all that is. It is omnipresent. Love expresses through us. As we increase our capacity to receive and express love, we become capable of being fuller expressions of a higher and more complete spectrum, increasing the breadth and the frequency we are in increasing the breadth of the frequency we are in interplay with. The divine source then has its expression through us into the world of form, changing, vivifying, uplifting all that it comes into contact with. When one is in love, one is in God. One knows that then that one is God, one with God, at one meant. Same as atonement, isn't it? Human beings are uniquely evolved to be conscious receptors and transmitters of this pure love. To become this unconditional love in physical form in our world is to fulfill the highest purpose of human life. Holmes writes in The Science of Mind, love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. It is the sole impulse for creation. When we come at something with love, our creative impulses are just magnified. Love creates, love does not destroy. The French mystic Pierre Teilhard de Chardin put it this way: the conclusion is always the same. Love is the most powerful energy of the world. Are we forgetting how powerful we are and that we have this tool at our very fingertips? And so today we can be a chance for today it can be a chance for each one of us to consciously connect or reconnect with the divine principle within ourselves, which is where the true power of unconditional love, the true power of creation resides. As an internalized quality, it is the foundation for abundance in every area of our life. And when we talk about abundance, we're not just talking about money or prosperity. We're talking about abundance of love, of patience, of wisdom, of knowledge, all of the abundance of the universe. And it all starts with love. When our primary experience is that greater love, it stabilizes and heals, feeling our deepest longings like nothing else can. What would our relationships with ourselves or with others look like if they were unconditionally loving, what would they look like? What kind of commitment would that take? I don't know about you. I know there's some that I have a challenge with in my life, with surrounding with that unconditional love, but it's just pointing out to me that I have work to do. Leandra writes, and I agree, that practicing unconditional love elevates the quality of our beingness, the quality of our beingness. It has rippling effects to everybody else, but wow, what it does for us, and can cause profound moments of overflowing communion. That sounds wonderful right now. If we can be the love in the world in the same way we can be the peace, that is our goal. We can be the peace in the world. Let's be the love in the world. I want to share a story with you that appeared on the nightly news a few years ago in Burlington, Iowa. Not that I was there, but I found this story online. And this is the story of the true power of unconditional love, the power of the divine principle when it's not covered up by human filters, because we make a lot of judgments by our filters before we even get to the point of loving someone. So this story was entitled, Dog Has Kitten for Lunch. Then the narrative went like this, and I'll have a short little video that kind of plays along with this in a minute. You can understand why some visitors to the Burlington, Iowa Humane Society got a little bit freaked out. It's not every day that you see a dog have a kitten for lunch, and not just a kitten. This dog is about to have a whole litter of kittens for lunch. The story of this unusual dining arrangement began a couple of months ago. Lily, a mix of lab, who knows and what else it was she was found along an old farm road. And she was pregnant and soon had 6 puppies, and all of them were adopted. Everything was normal until one day, soon afterwards, the kittens showed up without a mother. Teresa Kurt, who works for the shelter, said, we didn't know what to do. It would have taken a lot of effort to bottle feed all of these kitties. I don't know if anybody have ever bottle fed little kitties, but you have to do it, I think, every 2 hours. It's a lot. Then she came up with a possible solution. Even though there's a big difference between a dog and a cat, we thought, let's just give it a try. Let's see if Lily would have the kittens for lunch, which she did. And she had them for breakfast and dinner, too. And as she nurtured them in other ways, such as when one of the kittens fell into one of her water dishes, she rescued the little troublemaker and carried him off to safety. That bond was like that. So, is Lily unique, a one-of-a-kind kind of situation? Perhaps not. Listen to this. There was a cat that heard an abandoned fawn crying for food and took in the little deerlet, a cat. Or a goat that raised a baby horse. And perhaps the most amazing all is the leopard who, in killing a baboon, unwittingly created an orphan. The leopard could have easily made the baby an appetizer, but instead sat down and mothered it. So why would an animal show such grace? Let me just show you. This is one I found on YouTube. Because this is the world. Tiger cubs.
Tiger cubs.
Wow. The little piglets climbing all over it. It's like, hey. Tiger and piglets. Aww. And a doggy and kittens. So, science is still scratching its head trying to unravel these mysteries. But the instinct to love and nurture must be deeply wired into all beings. And when you take away the outside factors and influences, that is what we do. That is what we do. Because this is what we are. And this is who we are. We are each made in the divine image and likeness of the divine. This is who and what we are. Leander Carroll writes, "This love, in truth, simply is. Love is. Love is the essence of the life force surrounding us. It is what allows everything to have cohesion. Love is both our birthright and our legacy. Love is the original blueprint of our soul. Love is what we are. It does not need to be searched for, worked at, won, or held on to. It is in us and around us. We can take refuge in it when we are afraid. We can tap into it to heal our hearts. We can send it out to a hurting friend. We can deepen into it and allow it to be the sole impulse for building our lives." So today, I invite you to do just that. Today, I invite you to build your life on a solid foundation of the love of the divine, which surrounds you, is you, comes from you, and is multiplied and comes back to you. So that is your invitation for today, and so it is.